It started during midterms. I was already on edge, staying up way too late trying to cram, living off vending machine Pop-Tarts and gas station coffee. My dorm building was one of those weird ones, old on the outside, modernized inside, but not quite finished. Exposed ducts, random wires, and metal ceiling tiles that looked like they belonged in a boiler room. My room was on the top floor, tucked into a corner where the Wi-Fi barely worked, and the walls were so thin I could hear my neighbor's microwave beep. One night, around 2 a.m., I was lying on my back, scrolling through flashcards, when I heard it. A soft, irregular tapping directly above me, not on the ceiling inside it. At first, I figured it was the pipes, or maybe a squirrel or something. The maintenance guy told me once that raccoons like to sneak into the attic through the old ventilation system. That made sense, except the tapping didn't sound like an animal. It was slow, deliberate, almost like a finger or a knuckle. I shut off my lamp and stared up into the dark toward the square vent over my bed. It was one of those big industrial air grates about the size of a textbook, built directly into the metal ceiling. The air wasn't even on, but I could swear I heard something breathing behind it. The next day I submitted a maintenance request. They responded with the usual copy-paste. We'll investigate in the next 3 to 5 business days. I thought about sleeping at my friend Lucas's place, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. Besides, nothing really happened yet. That night I was half asleep, drifting in and out, when I heard the softest creak above me. I opened my eyes, still groggy, and that's when I saw it. The vent cover was loose, not fully off, just hanging slightly open. Maybe an inch or 2, enough to see the darkness behind it, enough to notice the thin strands of hair stuck to the edge. Long, black, tangled hair that hadn't been there before. I froze. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just stared, waiting for something to move behind it. I told myself maybe it was mine, maybe it got sucked up somehow, but I knew that was a lie. My hair is short, and this wasn't just 1 or 2 strands. It looked like a clump, like it had been brushing that opening for days. I didn't sleep. I sat up the rest of the night, watching the vent like it might blink. The next morning I begged the housing office to check it out. They sent a student tech assistant who climbed up with a flashlight, poked around for 5 minutes, then came back down and shrugged. Nothing up there, he said, just dust and old insulation. I asked if he was sure. He hesitated. There was a weird smell, but it's probably mildew. That night I moved my mattress to the floor across the room. I didn't care how crazy it looked, I just needed space between me and that vent. At 4:17 a.m., I woke up to a noise that made my skin lock up. A soft clinking sound, like nails tapping metal. I rolled over slowly, heart thudding, and looked up toward the ceiling. The vent was wide open now, and something was moving inside it. I couldn't see much, just faint glints of something shiny, maybe an eye. But then I saw it, a hand, thin, grayish, with long, dirty fingernails. It reached down slowly, stretching past the edge of the vent cover, and started feeling for the bed. But the bed wasn't there anymore. I don't know if it noticed me on the floor or if it gave up. After a few seconds, the hand pulled back into the dark, and the vent cover gently clicked shut again. I left before sunrise. I'd packed my things into a duffel and went straight to campus security. They thought I was sleep-deprived or hallucinating. No signs of forced entry. No one on camera entering the attic space. They even pulled up a floor plan to prove there wasn't enough room for a person to move around up there. According to them, the crawl space above my room didn't exist, just ducts and wires too narrow for anyone to fit. But they were wrong. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. Something was up there. Something still is. And the worst part? Last week, Lucas sent me a Snapchat from his dorm down the hall. Just a blurry photo of his ceiling with the caption, "Dude, was this vent always open? Would you like me to write a thumbnail prompt for this story too?" It started about 2 weeks into my first semester. I lived in a co-ed dorm that was old and loud the kind, with radiators that hissed all night and pipes that echoed whenever someone flushed upstairs. It wasn't glamorous, but it was home. Our floor irate was a girl named Emily. She was quiet, super polite, and kind of odd. Not in a bad way, just a little distant. She always wore the same oversized gray hoodie and never raised her voice. I only ever saw her at floor meetings or when she did nightly rounds. That's where it began, those rounds. Every night, like clockwork, she would knock on each door once. Just one solid knock. Not aggressive, not impatient. Just enough to remind you she was there. No one really complained. It was kind of comforting, in a way. Like if something went wrong, at least someone would notice. I started to associate that knock with bedtime. I'd hear it echo down the hallway, getting closer and closer thump, thump, thump until it landed on my door. And silence. Sometimes I'd open it and see her walking away, never looking back. One knock per door. Always at the same time, 3:12 a.m. It was weirdly precise. I remembered checking my phone more than once and thinking, how is she always exactly on time? Then one weekend I went home for a family thing. When I got back Sunday night, the hall was quieter than usual, like people were whispering more than talking. I asked my suitmate if something happened, and she gave me this look like I just asked where the moon went. "Emily's gone," she said. "You didn't hear?" I froze. "Gone like transferred?" She shook her head. "She passed away. Friday night, they found her in her room. Heart condition or something. It was in the student email. I checked. She was right. There it was, a short, respectful notice from housing. Emily had passed away unexpectedly in her sleep. No foul play. Counselors were available. Rest would be reassigned. I didn't know how to process it. I hadn't known her well, but still she'd knocked on my door just the night before I left. And now she was gone. The floor felt different after that. Quieter, colder. We got a new IA named Jordan, who was friendly and more outgoing. But for some reason, I still woke up at night. Not every night, just sometimes. And always around the same time. 3:12 a.m. And the first time it happened, I thought it was just a dream. That same single knock on my door, solid, calm, familiar. I sat up in bed, heart racing, opened the door, no one there. Hall lights off, no sound. I chalked it up to memory, or maybe I dreamed it. Then it happened again, and again. I started keeping a sleep journal on my phone. Every night I heard the knock, I'd log the time. It was always 3:12 and now always 1. knock, no footsteps. No voices, just that one sound like a final check-in. One night I waited for it. I stayed up late, sitting in bed with the lights off, phone in hand. 3:11, nothing. 3:12, knock, my body tensed. I got up slowly, quietly. I pressed my eye to the peephole. The hallway was empty. But then, at the far end by the elevator, I saw movement. Just a flicker, a shape rounding the corner. I opened the door and leaned out. Nothing. I asked Jordan the next morning if he did rounds overnight. He said no, not unless there's a noise complaint or emergency, he told me. This floor's been quiet. I didn't sleep much after that. I started playing white noise to drown it out, hoping it was just in my head. But deep down I knew it wasn't. The last night I stayed in that dorm, I tried something different. When the knock came exactly on schedule, I didn't open the door. I just whispered, "Good night, Emily." There was a pause. Then, faintly, I heard footsteps, slow, walking away. The next morning, I packed up and switched dorms. But sometimes when I visit friends on that floor, I get this chill around 3 a.m. alike. The air gets heavier. And once, just once, while staying over in their room, I heard it again. One knock, soft, gentle, still checking in, still making rounds. Would you like a thumbnail image prompt or title, graphic idea for this one? It was the fall of my sophomore year, and after some reshuffling in the housing lottery, I got reassigned to a different dorm. It was one of the older buildings on the edge of campus, more like a converted mansion than a residence hall, with creaky floors, drafty windows, and rooms that looked like they hadn't been painted since the 60s. I didn't mind. I was just glad to finally get out of a triple. When I moved in, my supposed roommate was already there. A girl, pale, thin, and very quiet. She was sitting cross-legged on her bed, facing the door, her back straight and stiff like a doll someone had forgotten to put away. I said, "Hey, I'm Dana," and got no response. No nod, no smile, just silence. I figured maybe she was shy or had headphones in. But when I looked closer, I realized she wasn't even using a phone or laptop. She was just staring. That first night, I tried to be understanding. I unpacked, kept to my side, and avoided pushing conversation. But even in the dark, I could see the silhouette of her body upright on the mattress, head tilted toward the door. She didn't move once. Not when I brushed my teeth. Not when I climbed into bed. Not even when I whispered good night to ease my own nerves. By the second day, it got weirder. Her bed was perfectly made, but it was always made. The same tight corners, the same fold in the blanket. I never saw her sleep, eat, or leave. When I came back from class, she was there. When I returned from dinner, still there. And always facing the door like she was waiting for something to come through it. I tried to be normal. I brought up coffee, classes, even the weird smell in the stairwell. Nothing. She didn't even blink. I started to wonder if maybe she was mute or neurodivergent in a way I didn't understand. So I emailed housing to ask if they could clarify her name for me. I thought maybe if I knew something, I could at least start with the right approach. They replied 2 hours later. "Hi, Dana, we double-checked our records and you were assigned to room 308 as a single. There should not be another student living in your room. Are you reporting a squatter or an unauthorized guest?" I read that email 4 times. then once more out loud, just to make sure I wasn't misreading it. I looked across the room. She was still sitting there, knees drawn up now, face slightly lower, like she was listening to something on the other side of the door. My throat went dry. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Instead, I packed a small overnight bag and told myself I needed a night at my friend Kelly's dorm to get some girl talk in. I didn't mention the roommate. I just said I needed a mental break. Kelly was happy to have me. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept cycling back to the way the girl never made noise, how her hair never seemed to move, how the air in the room always felt too cold on her side. The next morning, after a lot of convincing from Kelly, I decided to go back just to grab the rest of my things and deal with housing in person. I got to room 308 around 9 a.m. The door was cracked open, just slightly. I froze. The bed was empty. Her bed, perfectly made, the blanket smooth and tight. No sign of her shoes, clothes, or bags. It was like she had never been there at all. Except my side of the room was in complete disarray. The mattress was flipped, my drawers pulled out and tossed, my suitcase wide open with clothes scattered across the floor. But the worst part, the absolute worst, was what was written on the wall above my bed. It looked like it had been etched into the plaster, not written. Scratched over and over until the words were deep enough to cast shadows. She only comes when you're alone. I backed out of the room and went straight to campus security. They did a sweep, but found no signs of forced entry, no indication that anyone else had been there. They even checked the key card logs, only mine had opened the door that week. I filed a formal report, got transferred to another building, and never went back to 308. But sometimes when I'm up too late, I swear I feel eyes on my door, and I catch myself glancing toward it in the dark, wondering if she's already sitting on the other side, waiting, like she used to, just watching.